We recently went to New York City and saw 6 amazing Broadway shows.
Now, with the Tony Award nominations coming out tomorrow, we wanted to do our very own little awards ceremony based on what we saw in the Great White Way.
So welcome everybody to the Tony Awards. His name is Donnie.
Sorry.
It's cute.
Hey everybody, I'm Donnie.
And I'm Amanda.
And we are Adventures with DnA. So recently we traveled to New York and we were able to see 6 different Broadway shows. And because the Tony Awards are coming out tomorrow, the nominations at least, we thought we'd put together a little video here based on what we saw, what we loved, maybe what was lacking a little bit, but most importantly, provide our own awards ceremony. Give credit to the performers and the tech teams that really deserve it.
Yeah, and just to kind of double down on that idea, these are just the 6 shows that we saw on Broadway. Some of them were actually up for Tony's last year, so they're not really eligible for this award. So this is very separate from the actual Tony Awards and the actual nominations. This is just a fun way for us to share our experiences and our opinions on the shows that we saw.
Now, in case you're wondering, what credentials do these 2 people have when it comes to reviewing theatre?
I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Musical Theater.
And I have a Master's of Fine Arts in Acting.
And both of us have worked professionally here in the Twin Cities.
So safe to say, we've got some opinions about what we've seen. We've had some experience. So I'm excited to get into this. What I can say off the bat, we had so much fun watching these shows. It was a blast. I miss Broadway. It was our first time going there together. We've been separately multiple times. We finally got to do it together and it was brilliant.
It was so much fun.
Without further ado, I think it's time we get into the awards.
The Donies.
Sorry.
I'm not.
All right, here's what we're going to do. First up, I want to go over the categories that we've chosen for our award ceremony this evening. The first 4 are going to be Best Ensemble, Best Choreography, Best Direction, and Best Spectacle. Now, in case you're wondering, yes, I do have the slideshow below us right here. So if you see us looking down a little bit, we're looking at the same thing you're looking at right now. But Amanda, what next categories do we have?
Next, we're going with a little bit more individual awards. This will be our Best Supporting Actor and Best Lead Actor awards. Actor in our awards is a gender-neutral term, so we're including people of all genders in those categories.
That's right.
Finally, we have to crown the best show we saw in New York City.
And we do have an opinion on this, folks.
We do.
We have an opinion on all of this. But we're going to get into everything that we saw to explain our reasoning behind the awards that we give.
Here are the 6 shows that we saw in New York City and the shows that will be up for an award this evening. First up, we saw Gypsy.
Then we saw The Outsiders.
Then Hell's Kitchen.
Followed by Stranger Things, The First Shadow.
Maybe Happy Ending.
And we finished with Boop the Musical. Now, I want to say we went in chronological order of what we saw when we were in New York. So in case you're wondering what order that was, it definitely wasn't alphabetical. That's why it was listed out that way. Without further ado, I think it's time we get to the nominees of our first category, Best Ensemble. Now, Amanda, do you want to talk about what we viewed for Best Ensemble in terms of what we were looking for with this category?
Absolutely. So our definition of ensemble for this category is cast as a whole, not just what you would think of as the ensemble, as in the actors that are not the principals. So we're looking at the entire cast when we looked at this award.
Let's get into it. Our nominees are The Outsiders, Hell's Kitchen, Stranger Things, and Boop the Musical.
Now, The Outsiders won the Tony Award for Best Musical at last year's Tony Awards. This was a good show, definitely a strong ensemble. The fight choreography was really good and very well executed, and lots of really good choreography in general. This one lacked a little bit of emotional depth for me, which is going to be a hot take. I think a lot of people are going to disagree with that. Some of the performances just felt a little bit surface level in my opinion. So I don't know that this is my top pick, but what do you think?
I would agree with everything you said there. Now, to be clear, we saw it before. We do have a choreography award, so we're not going to get too much into that here. But when thinking about The Outsiders, choreography, stage combat, that all for me ties in with Ensemble because especially with a show like The Outsiders, the amount of trust that had to be on that stage to make this production work for the stuff that they did. It was clear to me that the ensemble was a tight-knit group for this. Principals and ensemble, they all worked really well together. However, I will agree with Amanda that there was a lot of surface level, I think, acting in this show. But that's not what this award is about, so they still got a shot, and that's why they are nominated.
Up next was Hell's Kitchen. I was very impressed with this show. I thought that every single person on that stage was up there giving their absolute all. And I think the cast of like principal and secondary characters in the show was extremely strong. Everybody had such a incredible vocal instrument and used it so well. And I thought the acting was really strong in this as well.
I agree. I think this is one where the principals and the ensemble came together and it felt like a family style production. Like the whole premise of Hell's Kitchen is that it's Alicia Keys' biopic, so it's based in Hell's Kitchen, right across the road from Broadway, as far as I can tell. I'm still working on my New York geography, but it's all right there.
Yeah.
And the whole show had a community feel about it. That was kind of the point of it. And I felt it from the audience. And we were sitting way at the back and we could still feel it there. And I think that is a massive credit to the ensemble, not just the skill that they had, but the way that they worked and played together. Yeah, it was really strong ensemble with this one. I had no problem giving them a nomination whatsoever for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Up next was Stranger Things. This was such a cool show and a very young cast for a lot of it. I mean, everybody had a really difficult job, I think. The spectacle in this show, which is a different award entirely, required really everybody to be kind of all hands on deck, I think, for that. And the way that everybody worked together to just make this show absolutely work is so incredible, I think.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Spoiler alert, you're going to be seeing Stranger Things show up with nominations throughout our categories tonight. And I want to preface this by saying we saw opening night preview for this show. This had every justification to go wrong in so many different ways, and it would have made sense if the ensemble were off in moments and things like that. And it was a tightly run show. It was fantastic. And the difficulty of this show with a lot of the tech elements that they utilize in it, the timing of certain things, there needs to be a lot of trust on that stage for these actors to make this work. And it was phenomenal.
Yeah, and so much of it is so reliant on lighting, which if you have ever acted on a stage with a very specific lighting design, you know it is incredibly important to absolutely hit your mark every single time.
Yeah, that's the thing. Find your light.
And this very young cast of, teenagers did that so well, and they were such pros.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a fan of the show, you need to go see this show. And if you want to see more about our review of this entire show, we do have that on our channel. Be sure to check that out later.
Finally, we have Boop the Musical. This is the quintessential Broadway musical, and the ensemble really brought it with the really high energy dance numbers. They brought all of the energy and excitement you could possibly want.
Yeah, 100% agree. It was cool. I've never seen what I feel like is an old school Broadway style show, and it had that feel about it with a contemporary type of story, even though it was based on Betty Boop. The energy levels of this cast were phenomenal, and I think it was clear that they all were having fun together on stage, not to a point where they were just doing it for themselves and it became kind of a self-indulgent show, but it was a shared experience with the audience that was in there. I think that was really well handled, and I feel like this is the type of show that could easily kind of fall into chaos. The longer it runs, the characters kind of the actors can take their own vibes with it and just take it for a ride. But it felt like they stayed true to what the heart of the show really is. Even though it's fun, there is a lot of heart to it.
Yeah.
And that really came through for me. I thought that was really well handled.
Yeah, they gave it everything.
So that takes us to the winner of our first award, Best ensemble goes to...
And the Donny goes to Hell's Kitchen, the musical.
Look at that. It's right there.
Hell's Kitchen!
Had to be Hell's Kitchen. Folks, when I tell you, I don't cry very often. It's just not something that I do. I cried 3 different times during this show, and it wasn't from the same performer. It was from 3 different performers. This was phenomenal.
Every single person on that stage brought it, gave everything, and it was just a truly amazing theater experience.
But on top of that, like we said, they worked together. It wasn't just individual performances were incredible, but the couple performances were incredible. There were trios, and then the ensemble came and backed them up. It was incredible. I think they thoroughly deserve this award.
I agree.
Yeah, I had no doubts in my mind that this was going to Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, that's one down.
Moving on
to Best Choreography. I don't know why I said it like that. Nominees are The Outsiders, Gypsy, and Boop the Musical.
Now, we kind of already touched on The Outsiders. The fighting choreography in this show is really incredible and sort of dancified in kind of a West Side Story kind of a way. Really creatively done, and yeah, it made for a very captivating stage picture a lot of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can throw into this the fact that it was sand or dirt that was on the stage, plus they had water coming down at one point as well while they were doing all of this fight choreography. So we'll say the dance, if this was just dance choreography, different ball game altogether. But we are counting, of course, fight choreography within this because it should be part of it. And it was... To be fair, I've never seen fight choreography like that. The way they utilized the tech elements for the choreography as well, it was really cleverly done. And I think seeing all of that, it was clear to see why so many people love this show because it was so unique in that way.
Yeah. I think the elements were very cohesive in this show.
Absolutely.
Up next is Gypsy. This is such a beautiful show, but specifically talking about the choreography, there's obviously the Baby June numbers, the big exciting high kicks and splits and all of that. I think the real standout choreography moment in this show for me was Tulsa's solo dance number, All I Need Is the Girl. That number was so incredible and so well danced by the actor.
Yeah, I agree with that. That stole the that at one point stole the show. We'll get into what else stole the show later on today.
But the Gypsy Rose Lee striptease numbers at the end were also very cool and very fun.
Yeah, actually, those were amazing too. The thing that's coming to my mind right now is when they had the transition in the middle of the song and dancing for the child performers growing up to become teenagers and adult performers, and the way they handled that while continuing with the choreography. It was... Yeah, there was so much to like about the choreography in Gypsy, and not just in one element, just all over the place. It was really good. Really good.
Yeah, very fun. Finally, Boop. We already sort of talked about this. The choreography was so high energy, so fun. There's one number, I'm not going to spoil it, but they really used the costume design with the choreography in such a unique and exciting and fun way. Yeah, I mean, I was blown away by the dance in this musical. It's really what the show is about. You know, it's really what it's all about is the high energy dance numbers. That's what the audiences go to this musical to see, and they give it.
Yeah, 100%. We talked about it before being that quintessential, and you can't have that without tap. And the tap in this show, incredible. It was so good. I don't know how much more there is to say about it. It was just phenomenal. The level of dance that we saw on that stage in this show, flawed. Just incredible. So that takes us to our winner for Best Choreography. And that, of course, is going to...
Boop the Musical.
Had to be. Shout out to Gypsy, and for completely different reasons, The Outsiders, but Boop the Musical, for sure, had to take this one.
I think so.
We were treated to 3 very fun shows there, though. That was solid stuff. Let's move on. Best Direction.
Now, direction is such a tricky award to give out because it really is about the person who takes all of the elements of theater and has the vision to put them all together.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest, I am biased in one particular way where I get so into the acting side of thing. I need a performer, their acting to just bring me in. Otherwise, I'm just not going to buy into it. You can have all the prettiest pictures and everything in the world. Pictures being like what everything looks like on stage, in case it's your first time listening to theater people talk about theater. That's such an important thing for me. And there were certain shows that it was clear that some of them were great pictures and others were great pictures, plus the relationships that were formed on stage and the balance and the choices of when to make moments happen and things like that. I personally saw very different levels of direction from that regard with all the 6 shows that we saw. I just had to throw that in there because I think we look at it in different ways as well, which kind of made this fun.
All right.
So that being said,
get to the nominees.
Let's do it. Nominees are
The Outsiders, Hell's Kitchen, Stranger Things, and Gypsy. Okay, let's start with The Outsiders.
Yes, we have kind of touched on this a little bit.
Yes, that's right. So The Outsiders had a lot of elements to deal with for the director. First of all, sand stage, rain, all those effects require a lot of coordination.
Yeah.
A lot of the choreography and the lighting design all kind of melded together. There were just so many elements that had to be cohesive in this show, and I think the direction really helped and made that happen. I will reiterate kind of what I said in the ensemble portion, kind of touching on what you just spoke about. Like I said earlier, I do think some of the acting was a little bit surface level. I kind of wish the director had worked with them to really kind of pull out more of a truthful, honest performance.
Yeah, I agree.
But there's a reason it's nominated, I think.
I don't know if I've got anything to add to that. I think you summed that up really well. I agree with everything that Amanda just said. I know we have kind of different opinions on some of these, but The Outsiders, we walked out of there kind of feeling the same way. There were so many cool things about this, and the challenge for the director would have been immense with this. But acting is a part of that, and the relationships that are built on stage and the performances. And I still think it very much deserves its nomination. But I do feel like we may have spoiled where this is going a little bit as far as who's not going to win this one. Sorry about that. Anyway, moving forward.
Spoilers. Okay.
Sorry about that. As opposed to Hell's Kitchen, this was handled with care and it was phenomenal. The relationships, the choices that were being made during the song that you could clearly see that the director was working with the actor to say, okay, in this moment of the song, I need the feeling to shift to this and to this. And it wasn't this is pulling me out of it because I'm seeing this. It was like I was watching it and I was like, oh, I hope something's going to come from this. And then it happened. And then from an actor's perspective, I nerded out hard with this show. It was phenomenal and I just loved the way it was directed in that regard. The staging and everything that went on, where there were so many different levels that we used on stage and everything. It was great. I thought it was done really freaking well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and there weren't quite as many unusual elements in this show for the director to handle, like The Outsiders. It was a regular stage, no rainfall, nothing like that. But they did have a lot of levels to work with on their set, and I think they utilized those really well. I think they worked really well with the design team to make a set and a design, lighting-wise, stage-wise, all of that, to really kind of help tell the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. I think that this was just a really solid show with really solid direction.
Yeah, agreed. Sorry, all I could think of while you were saying that was, oh yeah, Concrete Jungle. The set totally makes sense with that as well.
Oh yeah, I didn't even make that connection.
Yeah. Stranger Things, The First Shadow. Yo.
Wow. I mean, the number of elements that a director would have to juggle on this show is truly unfathomable.
Yeah.
I think the spectacle alone of this show was beyond anything we'd really ever seen before. Everything had to go perfectly to make this show work, and I have to say it did. And on top of all of that, not only were these tech elements so well handled, but the acting in this show was so beautifully done. Obviously, being an actor is a different job from being a director, but that relationship can really make or break a show, I
Definitely.
think. And it's clear that this director worked with these actors and really made sure that they were giving truthful, honest performances in really extreme scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this show is off the charts for difficulty level. And like we were saying before, this was nominated for Ensemble and it had so many Broadway debuts in it as well. So that's just one thing to go off. Clearly, it's working well with the director to pull out those type of performances. In every single way, this was a smooth show. And again, it had every reason to fall apart at any moment. It felt like there was always something happening that could and probably should at some point go wrong. And it just didn't. It was clearly handled with so much detail. I can't imagine what the director's book would have looked like for this show. It would have been insane. Last up, Gypsy.
This show is a Broadway classic. So to tell it in a way that feels fresh is a challenge.
Yeah.
I think the choice to cast Audra McDonald as Mama Rose, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And it does really tell the show from a fresh perspective because it is the exact same story, but when you think about the historical context of what a Black woman would have gone through during this time as opposed to what a white woman would experience this story as, which is what Mama Rose has always been cast as in the past, it does give it a fresh and new lens to tell the story through. And it wasn't the focus of the show at all, but it did have a different meaning and a different depth, I think. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, 100% agree with that. I went into this show wanting to go see Audra McDonald because I know she's Broadway royalty, a living legend. We'll get more into that later. I didn't expect to love the show, but yeah, I really did. Because there are so many times when they'll bring a show back and it's like, oh, okay, cool. It feels like kind of the same old thing. They changed one or two things to make it unique, but really, this was funny. It was heartbreaking. It was powerful. It's a long show. I was on the edge of my seat for a majority of it. I'll be honest. The first, probably 10 minutes, I was nervous. Oh, okay. I feel like this is going to be a long night in the theater. But this delivered and delivered well. And yeah, I think shout out to the direction of this show. It was a strong cast and what they did on that stage worked, and it's still working because it's been running for a little bit now. It's up for this season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not like it just opened a couple of months back. It's been running since late last year, I think, and it's a great show. I would just highly recommend seeing it. There's a reason we're nominating it. It's great. And the direction team deserves a lot of praise for that.
And a very smooth show as well.
Yeah.
You know, everything, the scenes flowed one into the next with absolutely no clunkiness or anything like that. The actors and the stage management team were clearly very well on it, which is kind of what you expect when you go to Broadway anyway.
Yeah, but I think that kind of ties into what I was talking about, where once a show's been running for a while, you can start to see cracks appear like that.
Yeah.
And none of that was happening whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that being said, Amanda, best direction goes to?
Stranger Things.
It had to be.
Yeah, I think just the difficulty level of what it would take to direct this show and the fact that it went so smoothly, you gotta award that.
I'll be honest, I was heartbroken not to give this to Hell's Kitchen because I thought that was the best acting directed show. For me, it was incredible, but just like you said, the difficulty level of Stranger Things, what they did, and insane. I think we said it in our review video of the show, revolutionary and everything, and
Yeah, for sure.
just too good. It was too good. Incredible. And the last of our group categories here, we're going with Best Spectacle. I don't think we need to get into Best Spectacle. It's just the craziest stuff that happened on stage. Let's see the nominees. The Outsiders, Maybe Happy Ending, and Stranger Things, The First Shadow.
I think we've kind of already touched on a lot of this, but as a reminder, The Outsiders had the kind of dirt, gravel stage, the rain effects, really cool lighting design that created some really spectacular stage pictures. And
Absolutely.
I think that's why all of those elements coming together, that's why this show is nominated for this category.
Yeah, well said. I think
Thank
that
you.
sums that up perfectly. Maybe Happy Ending. First time talking about it tonight. So many of the tech elements in Maybe Happy Ending I had never seen before this trip to New York. It was, you know, you go to a Broadway show and you expect to see some great stuff because it's their home theater. But the lighting elements that they used, I had just never seen before this trip to New York before. And it was incredible. Plus also it's supposed to be AI because it's, you know, two robots talking to each other in case you don't know. And there's a little more to it than that, but that's the main premise of the show. It felt like we were in the future while we were watching this play out. And it's one thing to do it on television, but to actually get that feel in a theater needs so many tech elements to make it work. And they did.
Yeah, I agree. I think the tech elements for this show were really impressive. I do have one critique of it, and that is that the set design really compromised sightlines.
That's true.
So the set design, essentially, the two characters spent a lot of time in their apartments, which were designed to be essentially two cubes with just the fourth wall gone. But because they had those outside walls, we were sitting really far off to the side, and there was a lot that we missed on stage. So I think that I wish that they had created the set in a way that didn't compromise sightlines quite so much.
To be clear, that doesn't necessarily tie into spectacle, but we don't have set awards and things like that. So that's why I felt like it made sense to talk about it here.
I think this is the category that closest ties in to set design, because I think that the set is a big part of the spectacle. So that's why we're mentioning it here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Last up, probably not surprised at this point, Stranger Things, The First Shadow. We didn't spoil it in our review. We're not going to spoil it here.
Yeah, and it's hard to talk about the spectacle of this show without spoiling it, but essentially, some of the special effects you see on the TV show, you can expect to see those, but live on stage, and it's unreal. Like, the way that they took what they are able to do on television with CGI and translate that to a live stage performance, I've never seen anything like it.
Legit horrifying.
Terrifying.
This was horror theater. And here's the thing. If you've seen the show, then don't feel like you're not going to be able to handle seeing this. Like, the show, I would say, is mostly scarier, but there were multiple jump scares in the theater.
Yeah.
And I think that has to tie into the spectacle of it as well. It's not just what's happening on the stage. It's how the audience is perceiving and feeling based on what's happening out there and how they're reacting to it. And we reacted a lot in this show with jump scares and gasps and covering our eyes. And look, we don't need to beat around the bush. The award's gone to Stranger Things.
Yeah, of course it is.
This was
never a question. We saw a lot of really cool spectacle in these Broadway shows, but nothing was going to top Stranger Things, The First Shadow. This is revolutionary in so many ways, and I feel so lucky to have been able to see it.
I 100% agree with that. Honestly, I was saying before about Maybe Happy Ending. I had never seen elements like this before this trip. I chose those words specifically because we saw Stranger Things the night before we saw Maybe Happy Ending, and almost everything that Maybe Happy Ending had that made it so cool, Stranger Things did the night before. So we had already seen it, but so much better.
But that's not to really detract from Maybe Happy Ending.
No.
I would say see Maybe Happy Ending before you see Stranger Things.
That is good advice. Definitely do that. Yeah, because you'll go into Maybe Happy Ending and it'll be a really cool experience, and then you'll go to Stranger Things and your mind will be blown.
Yeah.
But they're both absolutely worth seeing. Stranger Things. Revolutionary is the word for that show. If you love the show, you got to see the show. If you are into theater, you need to see this show from a revolutionary spectacle and theater standpoint. If you studied ancient Greek theater all the way through, any of that stuff, you got to see this show because this will be studied in theater history class going forward.
They've
It
set a
has to
new
be.
bar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Taking a quick moment here to build the suspense before we get to our Best Leading and Supporting Actor awards, and to say thank you so much for watching and to remind you to please like and subscribe.
And we're back. Let's get into some individual awards now. First up, Best Supporting Actor.
As a reminder, actor is a gender-neutral term for the purposes of the DnA Awards, so here are our nominees. Jessica Vosk in Hell's Kitchen,
Keisha Lewis, Hell's Kitchen.
Alex Joseph Grayson, The Outsiders,
Allison J, Stranger Things.
and Danny Bernstein, Gypsy. Jessica Vosk in Hell's Kitchen, she played the Alicia Keys character's mother. Her performance was so heartfelt and so honest. I really, really felt for this character, and I thought that she portrayed a character who was certainly flawed in a way that was so relatable and empathetic. And that's not to say anything about her singing. This woman has the voice of a god. I don't know how else to put it. Just the absolute control and vocal dexterity that she had. It was mind-blowing. Every time she opened her mouth, I was just blown away.
What song was it that had you in tears?
Oh, No One.
Yeah, they managed to make No One a song about a mother's love for her daughter. Alicia Keys, No One.
I wept.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't keep up with Broadway knowledge and stuff. Like, I don't know who the performers are going into shows unless it was like I had mentioned earlier, Audra McDonald. I think that was the only person we really saw that I had heard of much of before. Jessica Vosk, I am a fan. I'm a big fan. Holy moly. When I was
And
talking...
she is kind of a big Broadway.
Yeah.
name.
And again, this is why I'm saying this. I don't have that knowledge. We're trying to watch the Tonys more going forward. I want to learn this stuff. When I was talking before about how good the direction was with the actors, I don't think anyone sums it up better than Jessica Vosk. Her performance in this role was incredible, and just every moment was so special when she was on stage. You just couldn't take your eyes off of her when she was on there, even though there were so many talented performers. And then even when someone would come up and you think they're stealing the show, she would match them, but not in a competitive way, in a no, we're doing this together, but I'm going to go with you toe for toe. We're going to make this special. It was just breathtaking.
Yeah. Gorgeous performance.
Incredible. But as part of that show, Keisha Lewis. Now, to be fair, Keisha Lewis did win this award last year at the Tonys.
She did.
Gender specific, but still.
Yeah, Keisha Lewis was incredible. She played the piano teacher of Alicia Keys, and the way that she started out being... the character starts out seeming kind of mean.
Very mean.
But even while she was being mean, I was like, I love her.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Yeah. I don't know how she did it, but she made this woman, even when she was being completely brutal, so lovable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she sang with such emotion and such truth and such depth. It was an incredible performance. I loved every moment.
Was it the end of Act 1, the song that she sings, and you realize at the very end what she's actually been singing about that whole time?
Yeah, I think it's more implied than actually said, and I think it's kind of left up to interpretation.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because that song, I saw so many people in tears, including myself, at the end of Act 1. Talk about a performer that had control of the stage. She had us in the palm of her hand, and not just for that song. Just anytime she was on stage, it was like you said, there's a reason she won the Tony Award last year. And we got other nominees to get through, but it was not hard for us to put her in this category right away. It was breathtaking. It was a heartbreaking role for so many different reasons, and a beautiful one and such a memorable one. And yeah, Keisha Lewis killed it. Amazing. Yeah. Okay, next up we have Alex Joseph Grayson from The Outsiders. Now, we talked earlier about some of the performances in this show we felt were a bit service level. The show didn't quite hit for us the way it won the Tony Award for Best Musical last year. I'll leave that for now. However, Alex Joseph Grayson and his performance, I loved it. It was incredible. Not just the power of this dude's voice, his commanding of the stage, his ownership of the character, and the genuine heart that came through his performance. I think it stood out in a show that needed it. I thought he delivered. I haven't heard enough talked about this character from this show. I think this is the one that was slept on.
Yeah.
For me, he was brilliant, powerful. I genuinely I cared about this character more than pretty much anyone else in this show.
I think he did a really good job of playing the sort of tough guy role while still letting the vulnerability show through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think he did a very good job.
Yeah. And handling the content that he had to handle with the ending of his character. Trying not to spoil it, but the movie's been out for decades, and the book
and the
so
novel.
like
yeah.
I feel like people probably know at this point. If you don't know, then you're like me. I didn't know going in either. Yeah, the handling of the way that character finishes their story was acted so well.
Yeah.
I thought that could have easily been one of those, like, it was surface level. Nothing about that was. I thought it was a beautiful portrayal, and it was really well done.
Yeah. Up next is Allison Jay from Stranger Things. She played the younger version of Joyce. So if you've seen the TV series, you know Joyce is the mom, the quintessential mom character on Stranger Things. And this girl was awesome. She truly embodied that Winona Ryder sensibility. Just like the vocal quality she used. She made so many good choices in this role that just really screamed Joyce. I thought that she did such a great job of kind of embodying an already existing character, but bringing that youthful energy to her.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think when the show started up and you learn that she's Joyce, it's one of those things, you're watching a TV show and you see a child actor brought in to portray one of the leads, kind of a thing. You think, oh, that's really good casting. They look just like them. That's kind of what it felt when Allison Jay started this role. But then she just took over it. But in the way you were talking about, where it was very much Winona Ryder's interpretation of the character. If this person was a child, what would they have acted like?
Yeah, it was kind of
so good.
It was Joyce before all of the like trauma.
Yeah.
You know, she still had that like youthful energy and spirit and joy about her, but you could tell it was the same person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a phenomenal performance, and I even heard other patrons while we were there chatting. It's like that's got to be a Tony winner at some point in the future, whether it's now or later. Just star quality written all over her. They're just phenomenal performer. So good.
Absolutely. Finally, Danny Bernstein in Gypsy. Danny Bernstein was so endearing and lovely in this show, and I think he had a difficult job because I think that character can be a little bit forgettable, especially when you're playing opposite Audra McDonald. Mm-hmm. And we walked out of that show obviously talking about how incredible Audra McDonald was, but also talking about Danny Bernstein's performance and the care that he handled that character with. Mm-hmm. I thought that he was such an empathetic character. You know, you really felt for him the whole time. Yeah, I just loved his performance.
Yeah, I think so much of the theming of Gypsy that they talk about is the payoff comes at the end. It's not necessarily what happens during the whole thing, as long as you've got a strong ending. And I don't think that necessarily exactly represents Danny's portrayal or his acting of this character, but I think that character kind of has that arc. He's not supposed to be the most memorable character of the show. He's supposed to serve a purpose throughout. But Danny's portrayal, to get to the end of the show and to have the final climactic moment for that character, the power behind that was phenomenal. It felt like it was the payoff that we wanted, and it was just This guy's a multiple time Tony nominated actor, and yeah, it makes sense when you got that level of skill. It was cool to watch. That was just like, again, I talked to a couple of times about this as an like nerding out as an actor. That was one where I was like, oh, that's just cool, man. Well done. That was sick.
I think he did a really good job. The kind of one of the stereotypical notes you get as an actor is to find the love in the scene. The love is where it's interesting. So where is the love in this scene? What are people kind of striving for? And I think Danny Bernstein really embodied that in his portrayal. It was all about the love between these characters, and everything kind of served that.
Yeah, 100%. We've got 5 very strong nominees, but we could only choose one. And this one took some discussion.
It did.
This took some discussion, but we have found a winner. And the winner is
Jessica Vosk, Hell's Kitchen. This woman made me weep like 3 times. I don't know what else to say. She's incredible. Her voice is incredible. Her acting's incredible. I love her. I'm obsessed with her.
Yeah, same. It was just, I'm almost tearing up thinking about her. But it was just so good. The dimensions of this character and the way she portrayed all of them. I think it's such a really well-written character as well, because you want to feel for her. She's a mom, but she's also a person. She has her own relationships. She's going through her own stuff, but she's also
makes mistakes.
Yes, and she acts it so well, and then she just sings the out of it. I'm getting too excited about it now. I'm going to start getting real Australian and swearing too much. It's just, yeah. It was phenomenal.
Absolutely.
This was one of my favorite individual performances I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Just flat out. Incredible. Jessica Vosk. Yeah. I was about to say congratulations, because this actually means something.
Congratulations on your Tony Award.
We're going to come up with a better name. Yeah. Big fans over here of Jessica Vosk and everyone else in that category. But next up, Best Leading Actor. Here are the nominees.
Malia Joy Moon in Hell's Kitchen.
Jasmine Amy Rogers, sorry I couldn't fit it there, in Boop, the musical.
Helen J. Shen, Maybe Happy Ending.
Lewis McCartney, Stranger Things.
And Audra McDonald, Gypsy.
All right, we're going all the way back again to Hell's Kitchen. Now, Malia played, I use that picture specifically because she's next to Alicia Keys, and this was a biopic, so Alicia Keys there next to her version of Ali in this show. Oh, this character was so much fun. Obviously, she's the protagonist. You're rooting for her from the get-go, and she's a teenager at this time, so very flawed. And so, like, she's gonna make mistakes, right? But you can get the heart right away from this performance. And I'll be going into this. I've always been an Alicia Keys fan. So I didn't even know where I'm really going with that. I was just hoping it was going to be really good. And this exceeded expectations. This performance from Malia exceeded expectations in every way. It's Alicia Keys. You got to be able to sing Alicia Keys. And she did that. She did
absolutely
that
did
really well, and she does it 8 times a week. Incredible.
She was so good. Yeah, absolutely. And her performance had such heart, like you said, such an endearing performance. Mm-hmm. Even when she was making mistakes and doing things that kind of made you cringe, you were like, I just love you. I don't know, like, stop, but I love you. And also even just like the technique that she used, the vocal quality that she spoke with, she really embodied the character in so many ways. And then the way that she sang was, once again, another example of just an actor using their voice as an instrument, like you say all the time.
Yeah.
And it was so technically beautiful, but it was also used in such an emotive way. Mm-hmm. She would choose moments to let her voice break and let it sound not so quote unquote pretty, and it was really effective. So I just think all around it was such a well done performance, and it felt very intentional but also very truthful.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, we could talk about this performance for a long time. We do need to get to the others. It was phenomenal. It was, look, knowing that we had 2 people from Hell's Kitchen that were nominated for Best Supporting, and I'm not kidding, we could have added more from that show for Best Supporting as well.
There's a reason that show won Best Ensemble in our book.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's led by this incredible performer who lived up to serving that. So good. Jasmine Amy Rogers, Boop the Musical. I was
so fun.
So excited to see this because I had in our playbills while we were there, she had the write up. And Boop was the last show that we saw. So we actually had a chance to read her story and getting cast. And when she didn't get cast because she made mistakes in the audition, then eventually she managed to find her way into the role. And she smashed the crap out of it. Oh, so good. Talk about a triple threat.
She's incredible. The singing, the dancing, the acting, it was all there. She is such a talent. There's definitely talks about her being nominated for a Tony Award. I'm very excited to see if she's nominated for the Tonys. To truly embody such an iconic character as Betty Boop, it takes a lot of skill and it takes a lot of dedication, because there are going to be people analyzing the heck out of that in the audience. When you're doing a show based on existing IP, you better nail it, and she absolutely did.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I said it before, triple threat, yes, but also comedic timing. Her
Hilarious.
choices, even in the more dramatic moments, just everything. She had everything in this role. She crushed it. She crushed this character. It was amazing. I would absolutely see her perform in this role again. It felt like we were watching someone who was born to play this role.
Up next, Helen J. Shen in Maybe Happy Ending. This role, I think, is such a unique and kind of challenging role because she has a really difficult subject matter to deal with. Not to spoil it, you find out pretty early on in the show, but essentially this character is a robot, but she's basically dying.
She's a newer model, but because she's a newer model, the parts aren't quite as good. So she's deteriorating faster than the other character on the stage that is also a robot who's an older model.
Yeah. So essentially she is dying. It's sort of like a allegory, I think, for humanity and all of that. But anyway, she handles this difficult subject matter with so much grace and humor and humanity, even while playing a robot, which is so interesting. But and also it's just kind of quirky and fun. But also the show has a lot of ballads, but she still makes it exciting. So there was a lot to really love about this performance.
Yeah, I think the difficulty of this show and therefore character was extremely high for different reasons than ones that we've already talked about that were nominated here. I'm going to say it. We saw this show and they had what must have been a last minute sub. So Darren Criss was the only other person I really heard of that I was looking forward to seeing, and he was not in the performance that we saw. We saw an understudy. We'll always champion understudies.
We love understudies. They're the heroes of Broadway.
And to be clear, we have both been understudies in shows before. It is hard. It's brutal. It is
extremely
scary.
hard work.
Unfortunately, the show that we saw, the understudy struggled a lot. So Helen's performance was at such a high level, even though I think she was probably in the moment like, okay, how am I going to make this work and things like that. So I think that difficulty went up even further, sadly, that day. That is not me or us saying this isn't worth seeing. We went with people that had seen the show and they loved it so much they wanted to go back and see it again with us. Go see the show. Because Helen J. Shen is amazing. And from what we understand, Darren Criss is incredible in it as well. He's not here because we didn't get to see him. So maybe been a little different lineup that we had here. But definitely feel good about putting Helen J. Shen in this because her performance was solid in a very tough role.
I would also like to put in just a small hot take on this subject.
Okay.
Because I could see people coming at us for saying that an understudy didn't do a very good job. But the thing is, this is a Broadway understudy. to say that you cannot critique the performance of a Broadway understudy is similar to saying that you can't critique the performance of a professional athlete, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of an insult to all of the other Broadway understudies to say that this was on par with what you would expect from a Broadway understudy. So I think it was probably just an off day. I'm sure he's incredibly talented, and I'm sure that he can perform the role very well. And like I said, we think it was a last-minute substitution because we did not have the little slips of paper in our program. But nevertheless, this was a Broadway show. We did not pay full price for these tickets. We paid rush prices, but there were people in the audience who paid hundreds of dollars to see this performance, and it just didn't quite live up.
Yeah, I agree. This is the creme de la creme.
Yeah.
People from all over the world move to New York to get on Broadway. So I think we can hold it to a standard.
I agree.
So speaking of standards, Lewis McCartney in Stranger Things. Holy, how is he going to do this 8 times a week? I mean, how is that possible?
It is such a physically demanding role. It is an emotionally demanding role. I imagine it's mentally very taxing. What a performance. Like, truly, the physicality that's required, the coordination to be able to work with all of those special effects and have it go seamlessly every time. The amount of things that must be filling that guy's head. I can't even imagine. And he's such a young performer too. I'm just so impressed by his performance.
I don't know how else to talk about it. This is one of, I was about to say physically, but in almost every way, one of the most challenging roles I've ever seen on a stage. To portray this one time would be, I'd be exhausted after doing this. He's doing this twice a day sometimes and 8 times a week. Like, insane. I don't know how to talk much more about that. You need to go see this show. You need to see this performance. If nothing else, you got to see this performance. Yo, Lewis McCartney, dude.
Good job. Well done.
I hope you're okay, man. Like,
yeah, no kidding.
Amazing. And okay, let's dissect this a little more. The actor's control of the body is such, can sometimes be overlooked as a skill. And Lewis clearly has control over everything that is going on with his body at all times, vocally. And again, this ties back into why Stranger Things for us took out Best Direction, because it's clear there must have been a clear relationship here that made this work.
Yeah, and not to spoil too much, but there's so much of what's happening on stage that he would have been having to kind of embody without being able to see what we're seeing in the audience. So that relationship, to kind of go back to direction, was very clear that it was... There was strong communication there.
Yeah, absolutely. And this last person, who is this? Audra McDonald.
Audra McFreakin' Donald.
I was so excited to finally see. I've heard of Audra. I've seen a couple of things that she's done just on a screen. So we knew we had to see her in person because we couldn't pass that up. Yo, what? How?
I've never been so blown away by her performance. How
many standing ovations did she have?
I think she had 2 during the show and then 1 at curtain call.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, end of Act 1, I was like in my seat just like... I texted my friends and I was like, I'm unwell. I don't know how to handle the things that I'm feeling. And I have to watch a whole other act of this. And am I going to explode? Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah. I don't know if you know.
People call me dramatic. I don't know why.
This is the first time tonight that I've fallen back into my chair because I'm thinking about this performance. I remember speaking with you during intermission and I was saying, I'm worried because I feel like vocally, Audra McDonald is fatiguing. She's pushing. It doesn't sound healthy.
Oh.
Is she going to get through the second act?
Ye of little faith.
And then she comes out in the second act and it is clean and crystal clear. And I'm like, I studied voice for years, and I do not understand anatomically how she does that. That's incredible. It was stupid. It was just ridiculous. Everything that I learned in acting school is a freaking lie because I saw it, and what she did is not supposed to be possible, folks. And it was insane. And then she builds up this entire show to get to the end. I thought she's fatigued. She's fine. She gets to the end, and it sounds like it's going to fall apart because there's too much emotion coming out, and then she just keeps holding it and holding it and holding it, and then
So I just think we should just award the award. It's going to Audra.
It has to.
It's Audra McDonald. She's a legend. She is a legend for a reason, and I feel so lucky to have seen her live.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm gonna go back. This is I think we were treated
Oh,
in
absolutely.
these shows. We talked about we expected to see the creme de la creme. We
saw it.
This list right here of people, phenomenal, insane, but she's
Audra
a living
McDonald.
legend for a reason.
She stood out above every other performance we saw.
And like I said, some of those were the best like individual performances I've had ever seen. But we went to Broadway, and the first thing we did was go see Audra and Gypsy. And as good as everything was that we saw following, this was just different. This was the highest caliber that I think you can reach.
Yeah, I mean, she's Audra. Go see it.
Insane.
It's
Just insane.
marvelous.
Thank you, Audra.
Thanks, Audra.
Thank you, everyone. But
Love you.
that's something that'll live with me forever.
Yeah.
She's up for. Well, we're gonna find out.
Yeah.
But,
If she's not nominated, something is terribly wrong.
I mean, she's definitely not. It's a question of whether she's gonna win. And to be fair, there were a couple of shows that we didn't see that I expect nominations to go to as well. I've heard incredible things about Nicole Scherzinger as well. So we didn't see it. We don't know. But if anyone beats Audra, then that performance is going to be phenomenal because this was legendary status.
Truly.
Insane. That being said, we have
It's
come
time.
to... Oh, I was about to say, we're done. No, we're not done. I felt like we were done there, but we still got one more category. Maybe to some of the most important, obviously. It's kind of an important one. Best show.
Best show.
Nominees are Stranger Things, The First Shadow, Gypsy, and Hell's Kitchen. Now, for the record, if we had to go in a 3-2-1 scenario here, our 3s and 2s are different.
But our number one is the same.
Our number 1 is the same. And that number 1, I'm so excited to say, is Hell's Kitchen. How this was beaten last year for Best Musical is, to me, personally, without getting dramatic about it, a freaking travesty. Insane. This is one of the best pieces of theater I've ever seen. Easily. The talent that is on that stage, the storyline, how easy it is to connect with. Everything about this show was freaking phenomenal.
Yeah. And I mean, technically it is a jukebox musical, but the way that the songs were used was so creative and also so seamless. It was just so well done. I loved this show. This show, it was just beautiful. I loved it. I would love to see it again. And I will say that not every show we saw on Broadway would I want to go see again.
No.
This one, I would pay to see this one.
Yeah.
Again, 100%.
I would pay full price to see the show again.
And we did the first time as well.
Yeah, and I would, honestly, we paid full price for seats at the back. I would pay full price to get closer to the stage.
Yeah.
That's how much I loved this show. You kind of touched on it earlier, but the only way I could describe it was other shows that we saw, probably Audra aside, other shows that we saw incredible singers. This show was people using their instrument. And the way they played their instrument, I have never seen that skill before on a stage in a musical by that many people at the same time. It was insane.
Yeah, absolutely go see this show. It is by far, I think, our favorite that we saw. And we really loved the other two shows that we saw in this category, but this one really stood out to us.
I'm sorry, I don't care. Come for me. How The Outsiders even touched this show, let alone beat it? Insane. They had some really cool stuff. Everything else, Hell's Kitchen was better in every way, and it wasn't a contest. Sorry. Not sorry. I don't care. I am so passionate about this show.
Okay, it's a hot take, babe.
Yeah, it is. But I stand by it.
I'm going to hate watching that back.
Yeah, it's late. It's okay. So, these are our awards from the shows that we saw, folks. Like we said, we had a great time. This was so much fun going to Broadway. We're very passionate about theater, our own performances, and going to watch. So this was really fun to do. And we're very excited to get back there at some point and go see more shows. Fingers crossed later this year as well. We'll see. Shout out to Hell's Kitchen. We loved it. Shout out to all the performers. Thank you, Broadway, for an incredible time. We loved it.
And make sure to get in the comments if you saw any of these shows and you have thoughts that are different from us, or if you agree with us on certain things, let us know. We love having those conversations. And if there are any shows that we didn't see that you think we absolutely must see if we get back to New York while they're on, put that in the comments as well. There were certainly shows that we really wanted to see that we didn't get to. We were so curious about Operation Mincemeat, and we weren't able to get tickets for that.
Nicole Scherzinger
in Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
We really wanted to see that, and we weren't able to. We really wanted to see Oh Mary. That's the play that Titus Burgess was stepping into when we were there. Didn't get to see that. Tickets were extremely expensive while we were there. For some reason, that weekend in particular, I think maybe because it was when Titus Burgess was going in, tickets were like over $400.
It was nuts.
So yeah, we did not get to see that show.
Othello is going as well, and talk about expensive tickets. Insane. I'm not going to pay that to see Othello. Sorry, as cool as I'm sure it is. But I would like to see it. Glengarry Glen Ross for another classic.
Vanya.
Oh, yeah.
There were a lot of shows we really wanted to see that we didn't get to. So if you have seen any of those and you think that they're really worth seeing, tell us in the comments, because like we said, we would love to get back to New York again later this year.
Absolutely. It's a great time on Broadway right now. The shows are amazing. Get there. It's a fun time. But that being said, I think that serves us for the award ceremony this year. Best of luck and congratulations to all of the Tony nominees. Why did I say that weird? To the Tony nominees that are coming out tomorrow. We're so excited. We will be watching that. We are so excited to see who's getting nominated this year.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for watching our Broadway review, everybody. We're hoping to get back to New York at some point very soon. So if you like this type of content, let us know in the comments, because we enjoyed making it. We'd like to do more of this going forward.
And if you're interested in more travel content in general, we have a very exciting trip coming up at the end of May. We're finally ticking off a bucket list item and going on an Alaska cruise. So if you're interested in seeing more about that, make sure to subscribe.
And lastly, if you're curious about how we were able to travel to New York, we went first class. So if you want to see what the experience is like flying first class, be sure to check out this video right up here in the top corner. We detail everything, including airport lounges and all that good stuff. So if you want to know, check it out. But for the meantime, I'm Donnie.
And I'm Amanda.
And we are Adventures with DnA. Thank you all for watching.
Bye.